Well, here we are again, back in another lockdown in Melbourne. COVID series, what are we up to? 4? COVID video series 4. What we're going to do for you today is a recipe of chicken cacciatore, which we'll put up on the on site with the video for this. Good old chicken cacciatore, Italian dish. We'll start now. I've actually got a little bit of a head start on this. I've browned our chicken off. I've chopped all the vegetables. You don't really need to see me doing that. I'll explain the size of dice when we get there. As you can see in here, see all our, don't look at the bones. All our pan stickings, that's all going to be deglazed, and that'll all become part of the flavour. So as you're cooking your chicken off, the pan will darken, but that's okay. We'll add a little bit of either some sort of acid or vinegar or wine in this case, and we'll deglaze the pan. That all becomes part of the flavour. So what I'm going to do, fire up our little cooker. When you're browning the chicken off for this, do it in a deep pot, as deep as you can get, because the chicken will spit everywhere. I've already done one counter wipe down. The fat just spurts out everywhere as the moisture in the chicken hits the oil. Off she goes. Okay, so I'll just let that warm up a little bit. Add a little bit more good quality olive oil. You can just use a standard olive oil or extra virgin, as I have here. Get a nice bit of that in there. Now, while I'm waiting for that to warm up, as I said, with the dice for these, you don't need to be too fussy with making it really tiny dice. This is a casserole, i.e. sort of like a stew, in other words. So don't make them too small. It cooks out for about 35 to 40 minutes. So this size dice for carrots and the celery, that'll all cook out quite nicely. Now we'll get our onions in there. Onions, celery and carrot, all in there. They're cooking pretty hot in there. As soon as our onions become a bit translucent, I will actually chuck in a little bit of wine and deglaze this pan to get all those pan stickings off the bottom. A little bit more olive oil in there. The bottom of the pan has gone dry because of all that stuff stuck on the bottom. Just keep it moving for a moment. There we go. As per the recipe, in a moment I'll add pancetta to the pan also. Pancetta, you can substitute bacon. Pancetta has a particular flavour of its own, which will add a certain depth of flavour into the casserole. But if you don't have pancetta, use bacon. A lot of that stuff is now coming off the bottom anyway. Pancetta in now. You see a lot of this is coming away from the bottom of the pan already. That's all just adding extra flavour to our dish. Beautiful. Holding the garlic back till now because, as you know, garlic will burn pretty quickly. If you add that straight up with all the onions and the carrot and celery, the garlic will burn and it will take on a bitterish flavour. Getting ready for our favourite part, the vino. This is a rather nice white wine. Just use any dry white wine. Darrenberg, Jackie. Sorry I stole you, Darrenberg. 100 mils of a dry white wine. And we're basically going to cook that off. Yeah, all the stuff lifting a lot more easily from the bottom of the pan. And so that's going to just produce amazing flavour right from the start. Pancetta, oh, the smell off that already, the pancetta, onions, garlic, and that wine. Whoa. Let that wine keep cooking down for a moment. So, whoever thought we'd be back here again? And this is our home kitchen. We can't get back into Iruma Community Centre at the moment. They're in lockdown also. So I hope there's not too many of these required, but we'll get a couple ready just in case. Right, now I'm going to chuck in the mushrooms. That wine is cooking down nicely. Main thing is we burn the alcohol off the wine, and as that wine reduces, it'll really intensify the flavours. Another reason why you want a fairly deep and big pan for this, quite a bit of ingredients goes in this. Obviously a lot of this, the vegetable part of it will collapse as it cooks. The mushrooms, there's 150 grams of mushrooms, they'll basically disappear once it cooks down. And Deb, if you're watching this, leave the mushrooms out. We're just trying to speed this up by having all this stuff pre-cut, pre-browned on the chicken. You don't need to see me do that. Just about all that chicken that was stuck on the bottom of the pan. Come over, look at this, Jack. Almost silver on the bottom now. That's all lifted off. And that's the acid in the wine that deglazing the pan. As the deglazing gives you flavour. Sorry about that, Jack. Stay with me. Okay. In go our tomatoes. I've used an 800 gram tin of tomatoes, or two 400s. Just have to get 800 grams in. There we go. Stir that in, get that bubbling. The tomatoes, generally, especially the tin tomatoes, they'll bring a certain amount of acidity to a dish, and to counter that, or try and balance it out, we generally add a little bit of sugar into any dish using tomatoes, so it will counter that acidity, that tartness that the tomatoes bring. And I'm going to do the whole thing and use brown sugar this time. Half a teaspoon. Oh, I was just about to go crazy. That was lucky. Now, going to add a little bit of balsamic vinegar, just to bring back some acidity. There's a different style, different depth of flavour. Make sure I get it right. 1 tablespoon of balsamic, thank you. And whilst that's just getting a little bit of a bubble to it, we want some dry herbs. So I'll quickly chop these down, get rid of the sticks. Where's my sword gone? Stick in there, get rid of that. Okay. Some rosemary, a bay leaf, sized bay leaf. The dried bay leaves, I get them from my cousin who has a tree, or if you have a friend who has a tree, get a branch of bay leaves, hang them out for a couple of months, just hang them up somewhere, let them dry right out, pick them off and put them in a bag like that, seal the bag, and that'll last forever in your cupboard. We've got a nice bubble going on here, so I'm going to bring the heat down, sorry. Bring the heat down so we don't start getting it burning on the bottom again. Remember, there's a bit of sugar in there now, the tomatoes. We don't want that to burn again. Now we need a bit of stock. We need 150 mils of stock. Excuse me, Jack. Where's our 150 mark? 150 right there. That'll take about a teaspoon of stock powder. Get you removed today, Jack. Beautiful. I always use Massel stock. I love Massel stock. Does that sound like an endorsement, Jack? Okay, there's our stock in there. Just about now, I think the recipe it says season later. I'm going to season this now. Now let's get it going. I reckon about. I'm just going to use slightly under a teaspoon. This white salt is quite a bit stronger than the pink salt that I generally use, and a good amount of black pepper. You can never have too much black pepper. Oh, God, the pepper, beautiful. Okay, I'm going to put our chicken back in the pan. This is a big dish. The recipe calls for 6 thighs and 6 drumsticks. But some of these thighs are monsters. As you know, a lot of the recipes we had from old where they use chicken breasts or thighs, back in the good old days, a chook would have a chicken breast about 150 grams. These days it can be upwards of 500 grams, so they're monsters. And that was the size of a standard thigh in the old days. And this is the size of a standard thigh these days. So yeah, be careful. This is going to be a big dish. I'm not putting drumsticks in, I'm just going to do thighs. And any pan drippings. Wash. Okay, let's get all this settled down. As you saw, I got a not quite a full teaspoon of sugar in there. Full teaspoon of salt and some pepper. We'll get that going as is now, and we'll give it a 15-20 minutes to cook through. Then we'll recheck the seasoning and complete the dish. So we'll just get this cooking off for, as I said, 15-20 minutes, and we'll be back. Okay, here we are again. While it's cooking, it's been on for about 25-30 minutes. I put some olives into it. You didn't need to see me add the olives. Add about a cup of olives into the mix. In the recipe, it actually says to remove the chicken, turn the heat up, and just reduce the sauce a little bit just to help thicken it. These are thigh on the bone, which will stay nice and moist anyway, unlike breast, which is dry out. So I've just decided to keep it all going, turn the heat up while the thighs are still in there. So it'll do its full time, and go to a good hard bubble, good hard boil. I'll turn it off now. And we're just about ready to serve now. What else did we do when we were away? We went to the shops and we bought a breadstick. It's got to have some bread to slop through the gravy. Quite often in the past when I've done this dish, we'll serve up a nice mashed potato on the side, which is also good for soaking up the gravy. Cacciatore and mashed potato. But the other alternative is, of course, some nice French bread to slop through the gravy and soak it all up. So what we'll do a little serve now. A little serve. As I said, monster thighs these days, they're quite large. Get a nice bit of the gravy. Make sure we get some olives in there. A little bit of parsley sprinkled on top to finish off. I think we want a little bit more gravy than that, don't we, Jack? We want more gravy to slop out. Oh, and we've got an olive. Yeah. Slop our bread through. Put that on the side. Generally add lashings of butter. I think we'd have to add lashings of butter onto our bread. And there we go. With this, I have actually used the chicken thighs. You can use boneless chicken thighs if you want, but having bone in will keep a bit of the moisture, add flavour into your chicken. Make sure they're skinless. We don't skin in this dish at all, it just goes blubbery. There we are, chicken cacciatore, fit for a king, an Italian king. Thanks very much, we'll see you next time.